The Swiss have the world's best railroad system, as we demonstrate here, taking you on the great train rides of Switzerland. Some other countries have faster and newer trains, but no place can match the Swiss for efficiency and for the beautiful sights that you will see from the trains. Come along as we ride the most spectacular routes through this mountainous country and provide you with lots of train travel tips. The Swiss train system reaches all of the major destinations, so there really is no need to rent a car when you're in Switzerland. And the distances are relatively short because Switzerland is a small country. Plus, you always have scenery to die for out the windows. Snow-capped mountains, majestic rivers, rolling pastures with cows and sheep, and small villages as you roll along. Switzerland has the most dense railroad network of any country, sometimes reaching high up into the mountains with small cogwheel trains that will bring you up to remote villages, with frequent train service and comfortable, well-maintained vehicles for that pleasant ride experience. In this program, we'll be taking you from one end of the country to the other, east and west, north and south, along the major rail routes between the big cities and up some mountains on the small private tracks. It's going to be a scenic journey and also a practical guide to help you plan your own vacation. We're starting our rail adventure by entering Switzerland from the south from Italy, traveling past the typical entry point along Lake Como, a route that's been used by travelers for thousands of years. And for the past 150 years, it's been possible to do it by train. We're traveling north to Lucerne, one of Switzerland's most popular and beautiful cities, surrounded by mountains and the majestic Lake Lucerne. We're traveling along from the southern part of the country on the main train line, passing through Lugano and heading north to Lucerne. On this route, we're enjoying a typical range of great scenery with the mountains, a little snow on the tops of the peaks, small villages, isolated farmhouses. There's the beautiful lakes and the forested hillside, and many families have a backyard vineyard for growing grapes and pressing their own wine, especially in the southern part of the country, with that Italian influence. In this southern part of Switzerland, they speak Italian. When we get up to Lucerne, they speak Swiss German. Sometimes there's a dining car you can sit down for a hot meal. Other times it's a simple sandwich snack. You'll find the train personnel are generally quite friendly. More often on modern trains, the sit-down dining car has been replaced by a stand-up snack bar. The spectacular scenic vistas are probably Switzerland's most valuable natural resource because that's what brings in the tourists and keeps the economy going. And people come here to see the mountains, the forests, the waterfalls, the streams, the cute little towns and villages, so the Swiss do everything they can to keep it looking perfect. However, there is a universal conflict between preserving what's best of current conditions while moving into the future with improved efficiency and better technologies. This is dramatically illustrated by the new Gotthard Base Tunnel, which has shortened the train journey by 45 minutes but eliminated some of the scenery. It took nearly 20 years to build this 35-mile-long tunnel, which is the first flat, low-level route through the Alps. It's going to triple the capacity of the rail line and enable trucks to ride on trains rather than drive through the country on a highway, thus reducing pollution and traffic congestion. You're still going to find lots of wonderful scenery along this line. For example, Lake Lucerne, which is the second largest lake within Switzerland. And the train line continues along the shores of the lake for nearly a half an hour, giving you some splendid vistas across the water with the mountains in the distance, some homes in the foreground, and various marinas as you glide by. And we're just getting started with our journey across this picturesque land. There are so many wonderful sights coming up. We'll be approaching Lucerne in just a moment, And as we get there, just a note about the program itself, it's primarily about the train rides between the cities rather than an in-depth look at the cities themselves. We'll show you a few highlights of a place to give you a feeling for it, and then we get back on the train and move along to our next destination. We have many other detailed movies in our series about each place visited in this program. For example, with Lucerne, we have several other movies about the town and the surroundings of Mount Titlis and Rigi, so be sure to look for those in our series. And as we enter the Lucerne train station, we are going to hop off the train with you. The station is located right in the center of town, and it's very easy to walk through it with the escalators and the underground shopping mall, and you'll come up on the streets that are probably very close to your hotel. So you don't have to take a taxi. You can just walk from the station, dragging your bags right over to your hotel and take a little walk around town. We'll spend a few minutes showing you some of the highlights of this beautiful city and also take you on brief excursions by train to some of the nearby sites that you want to see when you're visiting Lucerne. The historic center of Lucerne is a large pedestrian zone with well-preserved buildings and many shops and restaurants for you to explore. It's right on the water, and you could enjoy some boat rides while you're here. You could explore the vibrant new side of town and do some hiking up along the medieval wall that surrounds the back of the city. But probably the most exciting option is to take a 1-hour train ride passing through more of that rural Swiss scenery with cows out in the pastures and snow-capped mountains in the distance, up to Engelberg, and then go up the mountain by cable car to the top of Mount Titlis, where you'll find a glacier covered with snow all year round. Go on outside to the open-air terrace. On a clear day, you'll see all the way to the Jungfrau, the Munk, and the Eiger, places we'll soon be visiting in the program when we travel from Lucerne over to Interlaken. You would really enjoy day trips to Mount Pilatus, Mount Rigi, and up to Burgenstock. Let's have a quick look at all three, starting with Rigi. We're just staying up at the top for a little while to enjoy the view and take some pictures, but you could go visit the restaurant and have a meal. At the top you can wander around and enjoy the views, then take a rack railway back down to Witznau, and finally catch the next boat for a return journey back to Lucerne. Another lovely excursion is to the top of Mount Pilatus, where you travel by the steepest rack railway in the country. At the summit, you'll find the typical Swiss amenities with a hotel, a restaurant, excellent viewing platforms, and you can go back down by cable car. Another easy day trip from Lucerne is up to Burgenstock Mountain. You travel up on Switzerland's oldest funicular, and then there are some hiking trails up at the top where you can walk along the face of a cliff and get nice views looking over Lake Lucerne. In our 4-part series on Lucerne, we'll go into great detail about all of these excursions and about the town itself. And here comes another excellent day trip you can make from Lucerne by train. We're taking the train from Lucerne to Zurich for just a half-day excursion. It's a very easy side trip when you're staying in Lucerne. It takes only 50 minutes to travel on a direct train route from Lucerne over to Zurich. You can stay in Zurich for about 3 hours walking around, which would be enough to see the highlights. Of course, if you'd like to really see Zurich, you spend the night or a couple of nights there. They have some excellent museums, fine art galleries, many shops, great restaurants, and other nearby sites. It's on the water. You can take boat rides from Zurich as well. We have a couple of longer shows about Zurich in our video series, where we spend several days there really exploring the city, so be sure to look for that. Zurich is one of the world's great cities, and you'd really have a good time there. But if you just want a quick day trip from Lucerne, it's an easy route. You can either ride in first class, where you'll have some sofas and very comfortable seating, or second class, just about as good, much cheaper. There are many trains running every day on this popular route. You don't have to rush to get off the train because it terminates here. It stops and unloads passengers, it waits a while, and it reloads, and it goes back to Lucerne. It's usually a very long train with a huge passenger capacity, So you'll find a seat, unless it's rush hour, there in second class you might be standing up, but otherwise during the day you'll have plenty of room. And when you get on the platform, you might have a long walk if you're at the far end of the train, and you'll get into the main part of the train station soon enough. It's a big station. Right in front of the train station, there are lots of trams going by, and the main street of the city extends right out from there, the Bahnhofstrasse. So to get into downtown, you just simply cross the street and you're there. We'll be showing you this short summary of Zurich, but remember we have got 2 long movies about the city in our series, so you want to look for those. You could easily spend 3 hours walking around, or better yet, spend 3 days. You'll find the modern part of town is quite exciting, and yet you've probably come to see more of the old town, something special. You'll find the old town to be quite convivial. Lots of sidewalk restaurants and people out strolling. It extends over both sides of the river running right through the middle of the city. And despite the narrow pedestrian lanes, it's easy to get around. You won't get lost. And then why not hop on a tram and ride down the main street and get a different view of Zurich. And then it's time to return to Lucerne, same evening if you're on a day trip. Arriving an hour later and an easy walk back to your hotel. Just shows how much you can get done in half a day. And then we're getting back on the train and heading over to our next city, which is going to be Interlaken. Leaving our Lucerne hotel on foot, walking over to the train station. Down the escalators, it's very easy with these Swiss stations. They generally have got a nice escalator for you instead of climbing up stairs. And we easily find our way to the correct train platform and figure out which car we're getting into. We've got reserved seats, and it's going to be another scenic Swiss rail journey. Today we're traveling to Interlaken, where we'll spend several days enjoying the grand mountains of the Jungfrau, the Schilthorn, the Monk, the Eiger, the Lauterbrunnen Valley, some of the finest scenery in the world. And it's a beautiful train ride to get there. It's so much easier to take the train instead of trying to drive. And especially in Switzerland, the trains are comfortable, they've got big windows, it's all very clean and quiet. And the views are always so pretty. You've got mountains and lakes and rivers and forests and cows, and we'll show you a good sample as we roll along. We're heading into the Brunig Pass. It takes about 2 hours to travel from Lucerne to Interlaken on this very scenic route, and it's so pretty you'll probably wish it took a little bit longer. There'll be lakes and cows and pastures and old wooden barns and Swiss chalets going by. You want to keep your eyes open on this leg of the journey. The rail route passes along the shores of Lake Sarner and Lake Lungern, 2 really picture postcard scenic Swiss alpine lakes. They are just so beautiful you want to stop the train and get out, but we're rolling along and we'll find more lakes at our destination in Interlaken. At this point, the train is still climbing higher into the Brunig Pass because the waters from these 2 lakes drains back down into Lake Lucerne. We'll be soon reaching the watershed height of 3,300 feet in the Brunig Pass, and then we'll be heading back downhill on our way to Interlaken. Dogs allowed, so you might even get to pet a friendly pooch. This route is so attractive, it's also part of what's called the Golden Pass, a scenic journey from Lucerne through Interlaken all the way to Montreux. And if you're on one of the special Golden Pass trains, you might have the panorama windows for a bigger view. But even here with the regular train, you get fabulous views. These are perhaps some of the most contented cows in all the land. A beautiful open-air barn and lush green pastures, and perhaps they're enjoying the view as well. There are several places along this part of the route where the train can stop, drop passengers off, because there's a network of hiking trails, of course, in this area as well. The Brienzer Rothorn is one of the great destinations. The rail route is fairly steep with a general gradient of about 3%, and there is one section that gets very steep, at 12% angle, and here it goes on the rack. So there's a rack system that helps pull the train up. Otherwise, it's regular adhesion steel on steel. This is not one of those high-speed European trains clicking along at 186 miles an hour. No, it's quite the opposite, but that's fine. The slower the better, really. It takes almost 2 hours to go the 46 miles. So you can see we're just poking along in some places, and that's ideal for our picture taking and just enjoying the scenery. Passing through the Meiringen Station, which is a regional hub with 2 major rail lines connecting here. As we come down from the mountain pass, we reach the valley of the Aar River, and the train rolls alongside of the channelized Aar for a little while, and there's some waterfalls out the window and other nice scenery as we soon come to Lake Brienz. We've gone over the Brunig Pass on our way to Interlaken, and now we've arrived at the beautiful shores of Lake Brienz, the Briennersee. The word Interlaken means between the lakes. 2 large lakes, Brienz and Thun, each with numerous recreational and sightseeing opportunities, flank the town of Interlaken. Lake Brienz, or as the Swiss call it, the Brienzersee, can be explored with a combination of boats and trains and hiking, depending on how ambitious you feel. We are just passing through this pleasant lakeside town of Brienz on our way to Interlaken, but you might want to come back to explore its 18th century wood-carved buildings and its open-air museum. While in Interlaken, you could visit here by boat. That voyage just takes 70 minutes, and it's one of several various scenic boat rides you can find on Lake Brienz and Lake Thun on both sides of Interlaken. The train ride from Brienz along the shores of the lake to Interlaken just takes about 30 minutes, and there's more eye-popping scenery, of course. Upon arrival at the Interlaken Oost train station, that's the East Station, we kick into our normal routine of helping each other get the suitcases off the train. A lot of the video that you're watching was photographed during our regular tours of Switzerland by train. For now, we're just taking a quick look at Interlaken town, which makes a great home base for exploring the nearby mountains. We have a separate detailed movie about Interlaken you can find in our series. And of course, we have very detailed excursions into the nearby mountains in our other movies, but we will give you a quick preview here of the highlights. From Interlaken, the train brings you into Lauterbrunnen Valley, and from there up towards Grindelwald and around up the mountain, heading to the Jungfrau. The train tunnels inside the mountain and finally reaches the highest train station in Europe, from which you get spectacular views looking out over the glacier. And at the top of the Jungfrau, there are some theaters and other interesting entertainments for you, including historic exhibits and restaurants. You'll enjoy awesome views from the train looking down into Lauterbrunnen Valley, and there are train rides on the other side that will bring you over towards the Schilthorn Mountain as well. As usual, you'll find the trains are very easy to use. They run on a prompt schedule, and you'll connect easily with the cable cars. After riding the narrow gauge trains a few days in the Interlaken area, it's time to get back on the big train and continue another intercity journey, this time heading deep into the southern part of Switzerland to Zermatt. Most famous for the Matterhorn Mountain, and it's surrounded by dozens of other high peaks. And the rail journey getting there is another scenic triumph. Interlaken has 2 train stations, east and west, and you can catch the train from either one of them. And you will be changing trains twice. There's 3 different train legs, and the total journey is just under 2.5 hours all the way to Zermatt. Not bad. The map shows you those 3 different legs. First, from Interlaken to Spiez, you get off and change trains. You carry on to Brig, get off again and change trains for the final leg to Zermatt. Easy change of train. We'll show you each step as we roll along, first passing beautiful Lake Thun and arriving at the town of Spiez. While rolling along for the next few minutes, let me tell you all about train tickets. and share some tips on rail travel. There is a wide variety of kinds of train tickets that you can travel on in Switzerland. There's first class and second class to begin with, and the difference is that first class is more comfortable. You generally have air conditioning, sometimes there's panoramic windows. It's less crowded, you have a much better chance of having a seat, and it costs about 50% more than second class. However, second class is also very comfortable. If you're not traveling in peak season, you'll probably find plenty of seats. Sometimes the windows slide down, which can be great for taking pictures and getting some fresh air, and it gets you there at the same time at about 50% cheaper, so it's up to you. Most of the train interiors we're showing you in this movie are in first class. You can buy an individual ticket from one point to the next, or choose from a variety of passes. The Swiss Travel Pass is the most comprehensive way to go, and it can be good for unlimited travel for a set period of time, either 3 days, 4 days, for example, 8 days, or 15 days. And it's good on all of the local transportation as well as the main trains. You do pay an additional fare supplement on certain private mountain trains. A less expensive version of that is called the Flex Travel Pass, which gives you the same benefits for a set number of days within a month. So you could use it, for example, during 4 days within a 1 month period for unlimited travel. Another advantage of the Travel Pass is you get free admission to over 500 museums, and you do have free mountain excursions to Pilatus, Rigi, and Schöniger Platt, 3 of the very popular rack rail systems. The pass also provides free travel on certain premium panorama trains such as the Glacier Express, but you have to purchase seat reservations there. On the regular train rides, no seat reservations are necessary. The Travel Pass is also good for free boat rides on all of the lakes, which is a great bonus. Discounts to the mountaintops vary. For example, if you're going up Mount Titlis, you'll get a 50% discount, but up to the Jungfrau, you'll get a 25% discount. The actual price of these passes varies so much, and there are sometimes bargains and discounts that it's just not possible to go into details right here. You can search online and find all the information that you'll need. But to really determine your best choice, you need to have a very good idea of your itinerary, total length of the trip, and the number of days within that trip that you'll actually be traveling. Another great advantage of having the Travel Pass, whether it's the Flex or the all-day, every-day, is that you don't have to wait online to buy tickets. You can just hop on the train and go. So you're really saving time, which is a precious commodity when you're traveling through Switzerland. In the face of this bewildering variety of ticket choices, my personal favorite is just go for the gold. Get the 15-day first-class travel pass. It's going to cost you less than $800 and that'll give you peace of mind and unlimited travel through this incredible country. We've arrived in Zermatt. Many of the hotels have porter service who will meet you at the station with small electric trucks that will ferry you and your baggage directly to the hotel and bring the luggage right to your room. Before heading right up to the hills, you'll want to take a walk around in Zermatt village. Zermatt, Switzerland has more tall mountains around it than any other town in the Alps. We are taking the
Gorner Grat Mountain Railroad. This is a narrow gauge rack railroad that's going to take us up past some stunning views of the Matterhorn. That's the signature site of Zermatt.
This train is the second highest railroad in Europe, just behind the train that goes up to the Jungfrau. And it's actually the highest train that's primarily not inside tunnels. The train station at the top is at 3,090 meters above sea level. You can see 29 peaks that are 4,000 meters or more in height, which is practically every tall mountain in Switzerland from one spot. That's our quick look at Zermatt. We've made several movies of the mountains around this town you can find in our Swiss collection. We are going to take you on an epic train ride through the Alps from Zermatt down south to Locarno, riding on 4 different trains during this day's journey to get you there. It's really quite easy to load the suitcases onto the train. We help each other out, we have plenty of time, and there's lots of room on board the train. It travels in the same car that we're sitting in a little baggage area at the end. A final glimpse of the main pedestrian lane of town, lined with shops and restaurants and little hotels. What a beautiful village this is. We really enjoyed our stay here in Zermatt. We've been here for 3 days and seen a lot. Hope you've checked our other episodes on our visit to Zermatt, going up all of those different mountains and doing some hiking, riding the rack rails. Now it's time to move along. The map shows our route taking 3 different trains to get from Zermatt to Locarno, and then a 4th train on down to Lugano. Later in the program, we'll bring you from Zermatt on the Glacier Express on a different route across the country to San Moritz and then down to Tirano. The first part of today's train ride is along the same tracks that we took coming up into Zermatt, but things always look different when you're going in the other direction. And with such a fine route, it's nice to see some sights again. We'll be enjoying another glorious train ride through beautiful mountains and valleys along a river, heading down to the town of Visp. This first leg is actually part of the world-famous Glacier Express, one of the premier sightseeing rail lines of the world. And then we'll be changing trains and going south, heading through the Alps and coming out the other side into what's called the Ticino. That's the southern part of Switzerland, with the Italian language and cuisine and that Italian influence, but it's thoroughly Swiss. We'll be heading down to Locarno and visiting Lugano. For now, we're just enjoying this beautiful train ride. Here and there, you'll notice landslides and signs of past avalanches, showing you how raw these mountains are. They are still growing and being formed. And we'll be spotting some animals along the way. There'll be cows and sheep and horses and goats out in the yards and pastures, all part of the scenery. Now and then you'll get classic views of the waterfalls spilling down the mountains. The Swiss take advantage of many of the mountain streams to generate electricity through hydropower. You'll notice this valley is rather sparsely populated, but it's lovely to come across the little hamlets with their chalet-style homes and slate tile roofs and wooden construction. It's nice that the windows slide down on many of these little Swiss trains, even in first class. Especially when you have that opportunity, go ahead, slide the window down, stick your head out, be careful it doesn't get lopped off by a pole, but no, you'll be quite safe. And that's how you get some of these really spectacular views of the rivers curving around and the mountain valleys and peaks beyond. Occasionally a train will have some cars with windows that open and other cars where the windows do not open, typically in first class. And if you're in one of those cars where the window doesn't open and you really want to stick your head out and get a view and take a picture, well, just get up and move to a different car and take a different seat. There's usually enough available space on the train. There you have that flexibility. If you are taking pictures through a closed window, watch out for the reflection that can ruin a shot. So just get the right camera angle and you should be fine. Hillsides covered with grapes. This is for the limited wine production of Switzerland. They do make red wine and white wine, and it's usually quite good, but not much of it is ever exported. About 95% is consumed in country. You'll be spotting other kinds of economic activity as the train rolls along, passing a major rock quarry. All these hard rocks of the mountains, some of them are put to good use for building materials. So you will see quarries, you'll see lumber yards. There's certainly some selective trimming of the trees and lumbering going on in Switzerland. Power station for that electrical generation. Keep your eyes open and you'll spot some beautiful bridges with all of the deep valleys and high mountains and rail lines and roads. Switzerland has lots of bridges, some of them old stone. Our train made a brief stop in the town of Visp, and there was some kind of celebration going on not quite sure, costume soldiers, and then a priest with a religious canopy, so maybe it was some kind of a holy day. Local saint, perhaps. But we don't have time to get off the train. It's only about a 5-minute stop, and we are continuing on to the terminus of this line, the next town down at Brig. The train we've been riding on is a narrow gauge private train line, just 43 kilometers in length between Zermatt and Brig, where we get off the train and we take our suitcases with us as usual. So most of the big train lines in Switzerland are owned by the national government, but there are a number of these smaller private lines, and we find we're in the middle of the street. We have to unload our baggage, and then we walk across the main street into the major train station to get on the international train that'll take us down south below the Alps. The station at Brig is quite large because this is an international train junction. Several rail lines intersect here. Our destination is the Swiss city of Locarno, but to get there, we have to go through Italy, through the Alps, through the Simplon Tunnel. It's quite a rail route. And on the south side of the Alps, we'll be arriving in the Italian city of Domodossola, and there we get off this train and get on another train to continue our journey. We've come out the other side of the Simplon Tunnel, so now we are in Italy, having gone through a 12-mile-long tunnel. When it opened in the 1920s, it was the longest railway tunnel in the world. And notice all these tracks and switches here at Domodossola. Most trucks get loaded on trains to go through Switzerland. They don't like the diesel pollution, so they put them on trains. This time we have a small challenge on the transfer.
Okay, let's go. Get your bag. We have to walk down the stairs.
We don't have a lot of time, and we're going to have to deal with some staircases. So we get the bags off, we help each other out, walk through a tunnel, up on another platform, walk along, roll our bags, down another staircase, and we're not quite there yet. We keep going, and through another tunnel, and we make it to the train on time. Domodossola, where we just changed, is in Italy, and that's an example of the difference between the Swiss rail provisions and some Italian rail stations in the smaller areas. Well, now we're happy to be settled in and enjoying our scenic ride already, crossing the big rivers, and conductor comes along. We'll be enjoying a lot of views out the train windows because this is the Cento Valley line, which means 100 valleys are in the region that the train is traveling through. No dining car on this simple train, but a very friendly gal running the snack cart.
We have coffee, beer, wine, red and white. We have Coca-Cola, lemon, orange soda.
How's your coffee? Good?
Espresso, Italian, yes.
Oh, I get one.
What
kind of money did it take?
Anything you got. We're in the middle of a fairly long day on all these trains and never did get a chance to sit down for a real lunch, so a little snack will get us through. It's about a 2-hour train ride to get from Domodossola over to our end destination of Locarno. We do manage to spot some hill towns in the distance. With all these valleys, the area is noted for the little villages on the hills. And we see quite a few rivers passing under our viaducts, beautiful houses, and some narrow gorges. So we thought we were doing pretty good here, getting comfortable in the train and shooting pictures out the window. And then we slowed down. There are a number of stations along this little line. There's 22 stations. It doesn't stop everywhere, but we came to a halt. And we were told to change trains, so we had to get off of one train. And fortunately, the other train was right there at the same small platform, so it was really the easiest possible transfer. But for some reason, our train was stopping, even though it was supposed to go all the way. And we got on the other train that will indeed take us off to Locarno. This train route is 52 kilometers long, of which about 65% is in Italy. The scenery was wonderful all the way. Even on a day like this, which is fairly cloudy, it was not raining out there, so our view was not obliterated. On a sunny day, it would probably be nicer, but on a light cloudy day like this, it's very pleasant. The length of this Cento Valley trip is only about 32 miles, and yet it takes nearly 2 hours, so the train does go very slowly, gives you a good chance to enjoy the view. With this graffiti, you might think we're still in Italy, but no, we have arrived in Switzerland, and we are about to reach our destination. As you can see, we have now arrived. We have arrived in Locarno, and there's an escalator to take us up. Welcome back to Switzerland. And then we're going to find it's a very short walk to get to our hotel, which is only 2 blocks away from the train station. So that is really convenient. Great location,
Yeah.
right on the waterfront,
Yep, right there.
facing Lake Maggiore.
Yeah.
And a good base for exploring the Ticino, the southern part of Switzerland. And we're going to go down to the city of Lugano, a beautiful lakeside town on Lake Lugano. Today we're starting off on another Swiss adventure. We're leaving our hotel in Locarno on a day trip. We'll be back the same night, boarding our very nice, comfortable Swiss local train. We'll be spending most of this day down visiting Lugano, another wonderful city in the south of Switzerland. Easy to get there by train. Just a few miles from Italy, but the journey's entirely within Switzerland. Of course, we enjoy some lovely scenery along the way, passing the lakes and the farms, and of course some mountains off in the distance. It's a 1-hour journey from Locarno to Lugano, and you do change trains once along the way. It's all very highly coordinated, so you don't have to rush when you're changing. And this train service is very frequent. There are 2 trains every hour between Locarno and Lugano, so it makes it really easy to get around. When you arrive at the Lugano station, you are not yet in the town. The station is up above the town on the hillside, so you go down via a funicular. It's called the Funicolare Lugano Città Stazione, and it's a short line that connects the railway station down to the city center. Right away, you discover some special features about Lugano and the historic center of town, especially these arcades. They go for many blocks, lining both sides of the street with covered sidewalk areas. It's really a calm and sheltered environment. Protect you from the rain and from the sun. Kind of looks like a medieval cloister, but this was typical of various Swiss towns. Well, now we're entering the home stretch of our Swiss rail adventure. We'll see perhaps the most famous train route, the Glacier Express. And first we'll take you up to Basel and over to Lake Geneva and Lausanne. A typical route to leave Switzerland when you're heading north to France is traveling via Basel, which is a great international city right on the border. And while you're changing trains, perhaps you'll have enough time to take a look at the city of Basel. In our case, we only had an hour and a half between trains, but you can leave your luggage at the station, hop in a taxi, and head right into downtown Basel, which is very close to the train station, of course. Our driver dropped us off at Claraplatz. Only took about 10 minutes to get here from the station. And this is part of the new town. You see it's a lovely little square and flowers and benches and shops around it, and the tram line. Lots of trams running through Basel. Trams make an ideal way to travel for visitors with little time because the service is frequent. So we figured, okay, let's hop on a tram and head into the old town, crossing the River Rhine. You'll find that you can see the highlights of Basel in just about 1 hour, and if you're really pressed for time, head straight for the main square of the old town, the Marktplatz, the marketplace, and you'll find there's food stands, lots of people, cheese and flowers for sale, and maybe you can get a quick lunch at the sausage stand. And don't worry about the schedule because this market is open every day of the week. The town hall has a magnificent, delicately carved front with a fine clock, a belfry pointed like an arrow, fresco paintings, and heralded arms in splendid plumes bearing the coat of arms of Basel. Its iron gate is like a great window blind embroidered in open ironwork. All over the courtyard there are statues and doors of carved wood. A stone staircase leads from the court to the vestibule on the first floor, and it's all freely open to the public. Of course, you could spend several days enjoying Basel and its surroundings. There is so much to see here. For example, you could visit 40 different museums and soak up the multicultural ambience of the city with that international location at the border of Switzerland, France, and Germany. And with it all, they claim a Mediterranean flair with 300 days of sunshine a year and a fair temperate climate. Basel is generally counted among the cities with the highest standard of living in the world, so you could really enjoy an extended stay here. However, in our case, we're just changing trains, so we're giving you a quick look. There are 10 different tram lines that run through the center of the city, and at the marketplace there are 2 lines that will take you directly back to the train station. It only takes about 5 or 10 minutes to make that quick little journey. It's a scenic ride. You'll see more of the city along the way. And you'll notice there are very few automobiles or buses in the center. They rely more on the trams and bicycles and walking. And you'll soon be back at the Bahnhof, ready to resume your journey. As mentioned, we only had an hour and a half between trains, and we managed to see this much of Basel in just 1 hour. That was an hour very well spent and gave us lots of reasons to come back again in the future and spend more time in this great city. The large train station straddles the border of Switzerland and France, but you'd never know it because there's no passport control between these 2 friendly countries. We're here to catch the high-speed TGV that will speed us on our way into France. Another main Switzerland to France travel route is in the west side of the country, for example, from Bern to Lausanne. You'll find the Bern train station is quite large and modern and easy to navigate, so you'll quickly find your platform. And once you're on the train, you'll be zipping through some more beautiful Swiss countryside in the western part of Switzerland. And you'll notice even the architecture of the homes bears a certain resemblance to France as well as Switzerland. We're entering the French-speaking part of the nation. You know, there's the German side that we've been in. We're heading now to the French side in the west part of the country. And then, of course, in the south, they speak the Italian, as we saw coming through from Ticino. And a little bit of the original Romansh language, maybe 3% of the population, similar to a Latin language. And that linguistic divide has been there for thousands of years, even archaeologically, when they look at the artifacts of the early prehistoric days. There's a difference in cultures between east and west in Switzerland. We've left that steep alpine terrain for the rolling hills and pasture lands. The journey can be done in as little as 1 hour and 6 minutes. No connections necessary. It's a direct shot. Well, the scenery is quite lovely, especially on a sunny day like this, but it is kind of standard. It's the usual nice view you'll get out the window until you reach the shores of Lake Geneva, and then something very special happens. You're entering a UNESCO World Heritage Site, the Lavaux Vineyard Terraces, which is the largest vineyard region in all of Switzerland. It stretches for about 30 kilometers along the northern shores of Lake Geneva, from the castle of Chillon to the eastern outskirts of Lausanne. It's a beautiful sight to see, and it's also a very productive land growing the Chasselas grape, which is used in the production of white wine, a dry and fruity popular wine here in Switzerland. And these vineyards are an outstanding ecological example of a 1,000-year interaction between people and their environment, in which the local resources were optimized to produce this highly valued wine. These wine terraces have been in continuous use and cultivation ever since the 11th century, when Benedictine and Cistercian monasteries controlled the area and began the farming. It's believed the wine cultivation here actually goes further back to the Roman days. It demonstrates how, with proper control and protection, a sensitive environmental area can continue to be productive for thousands of years. However, in recent times, there has been some threat in the face of fast-growing urban settlements of Lausanne, and this vulnerability has prompted protection measures strongly supported by local communities and reinforced by the UNESCO World Heritage designation. It truly is one of the most beautiful stretches of vineyards that you'll ever see from a train, especially when you get to look at it for about 5 to 10 minutes as you're rolling along. So this is not a place to be taking a nap on the train. You want to be glued to the window, taking your pictures and soaking up the vista. Soon enough, you'll be arriving at the main train station of Lausanne, and here you generally get off and connect with the TGV that will take you on directly north into France. But if you have enough time between your train connections, it's worth having a quick look at Lausanne. You can hop on the metro in the train station, and it quickly brings you down to the lakeshore, a delightful spot for a brief walk. 7 minutes from Lausanne train station down to Ouchy. I'm going to cross over. On such a warm, sunny day with lush flowers and foliage in the park, it almost seems like you're on the shores of the Mediterranean. But we're on the Swiss shores of Lake Geneva, also called Lac Léman by the French, who own the southern shore. In the 19th century, Ouchy was a separate fishing village and then became incorporated as the harbor of Lausanne, and now it's purely a pleasure center. If you had time for a few days, there are some deluxe hotels here, the Beau Rivage Palace and the Angleterre, and the deluxe 4-star Chateau d'Ouchy, along with some impressive gourmet restaurants. The Tourist Information Office by the waterfront can fix you up with a place to stay or give you some free brochures and maps with information about the area. Or just walk around on your own and soak up the sights. Now I'm going back 30 minutes later. 12 trains going to leave at about 12:30. Get us back up there at 12:35. Yeah, that was a quick look, just half an hour to browse around quickly in the waterfront and skipping the entire old town of Lausanne. So this really was a little bit painful to be here for such a short while, but instead of just waiting around in the train station for the next train, why not do what you can, have a look around, and prepare maybe for a future visit to this very attractive region. After all, our main purpose in traveling through Lausanne was to connect with the TGV that's going to take us up into France. While the Swiss rail system is certainly one of the world's best, there are no high-speed Swiss trains. They're planning some, but they don't really need them because the distances are so short. And they compensate with outstanding scenery and great service. Our grand finale, the most famous train ride in Switzerland. You are going to experience now 2 of the world's great train rides. We're going through Switzerland on the Glacier Express, and then you'll take the Bernina Express, traveling from one end of the country to the other. We're riding on the Glacier Express from Zermatt to St. Moritz. It's one of the most spectacular and scenic rail routes you can find any place in the world. It goes through something like 100 tunnels, over 300 little bridges, and mostly it's this wild natural scenery with great mountains all around us and mountain streams, glaciers in the tops of the mountains, and it's a very comfortable ride on this Swiss train. You can't get much better than this. It takes about 8 hours to get from Zermatt to St. Moritz. You're crossing almost the entire country of Switzerland, and it's 8 of the prettiest hours that you'll ever enjoy while traveling through Europe. You see behind us the valley that has the town of Andermatt. It's way back there
We're kind of at the crossroads of the eastern part of Switzerland and the western part. The Gotthard Tunnel runs through this particular region, and there is spectacular mountains all around us. We're riding along on the Glacier Express from one end of Switzerland to the other. We've got on in Zermatt in the morning, and we'll be riding all day through some of the most beautiful scenery in Europe, right through the heart of the Alps on our way to St. Moritz. The Glacier Express is one of the most famous train rides in the world, and we're finding out why today. There's beautiful mountains towering above us. We're passing various river valleys. The Rhone River Valley runs along much of the course.
You can't get hungry on this trip because they feed you very well, and plenty of your favorite beverages to go along with it. Real food cooked in their onboard kitchen and served to you right at your table. They dish it out family style with those big platters of food just coming out time after time and giving you as much as you want to eat. It's really quite a feast and made that much more delicious with that beautiful scenery gliding by. Notice the tall viaduct holding up tracks that lead into the tunnel, one of the most famous sights along the Glacier Express. The hours flew by quickly and this leg of the journey has come to an end.
Now we're ending up in St. Moritz. We'll take the Bernina Express today, and everybody had a good time over there? Yeah. Let's get back on the train. Now we got a trains going, we got to catch a train. We're on the Bernina Express in Switzerland. This goes from St. Moritz to Tirano in Italy. Just on the southeastern tip of the country, enjoying some very spectacular scenery, mountain peaks and beautiful valley bottoms. We've seen some sheep and we've seen hikers out there, beautiful pine forests all the way along. And it's a very smooth ride, even though it's pretty curvy. The trip involves going up to 7,000 feet elevation, and it's quite a spectacular train ride. There's beautiful pine forests, snow-covered mountain peaks. We have some misty fog now and then, and green valley bottoms, little streams. There's hikers out there walking around enjoying the scenery. And all in all, it's a wonderful 2-hour ride. So we're in the very southeastern part of Switzerland right now. And while it is Switzerland, they speak Italian here, and the architecture is Italian, and the cuisine is Italian. It's similar to the Ticino, which is a large part of Switzerland by Lugano, that's in the Italian cultural area, even though it's within the country of Switzerland. And we're entering some very sharp curves here because we're descending from Switzerland's highest mountain pass into the lower valley, and the scenery is getting prettier and prettier, and we're getting more Italian with each mile that we travel. And this ride is still very smooth. It's the steepest train ride in the world that does not use a cog railway system. It's what they call adhesion, where it's just steel wheel on steel track. And so to make up for the gradient, there's a lot of curves. In fact, the train itself travels twice as far as it would have to if it went in a straight line, because of all the curves that we're going through. And the curves are kind of nice. They give you all different angles on the scenery. One moment the valley is out on this side of the train, and the next moment it's off on the other side of the train. You go into a tunnel and spiral around and come out the other way, and it's all a little bit confusing, but at the same time keeps things quite interesting and exciting. We've been traveling through the Alps, Lucerne into Interlaken, enjoying the Bernese Oberland and the Jungfrau, and from there we traveled to Zermatt, where we enjoyed the Matterhorn. And then we crossed Switzerland on the Glacier Express to St. Moritz. And today is our final leg, the Bernina Express from St. Moritz down to Tirano. We've come in a big circle all the way around through the country, enjoying a lot of alpine highlights. I'd like to also tell you just a little bit about Switzerland. It's such a wonderful place, and it's such a culturally rich place. Now, the Swiss economy is pretty strong. It used to be much stronger, but Europe in general has been going through a bit of hard times in the last 10 years. Switzerland's a little bit better off than that because it's a strong mixed economy. They do manufacturing, pharmaceuticals, machine tools, precision tools,
And of course, banking is critical, and export of electricity. They have a lot of hydroelectric power here in Switzerland, so much so they can export nearly half of it to the adjacent countries. And as you realize, hydroelectric is a perfect source of energy, no pollution. And to the point where the Swiss are fed up with all these trucks rumbling through the country that come from the north to Italy. And they're building more tracks for trains, tunneling through the country, through the Alps. And they're going to want these trucks eventually to get on a train, a big flatbed freight train, and pay a fee and be brought through their country on a train, and then they can get off the train and pollute Italy if they want. But they're so clean here. You noticed very little graffiti, the streets are clean. It's such an efficient country, and friendly people, quite nice here, and they speak English for the most part. And certainly in the shops, I'm sure you had no problem getting by there. The education levels are very high. They learn English in school from a very young age. Maybe they learn French as well, since it's really a bilingual country primarily. And the education is free all the way through university. It's free education. Teachers here, with some seniority, let's say 10 years into the career, in a public school, are paid about $100,000. It's really quite amazing how they value education. And social services obviously come with that too, welfare, medical, some housing benefits if you're having a problem. So we don't see many poor people here, and yet there's a lot of rich people in Switzerland. There's just a lot of money here. Zurich is one of the richest per capita cities in the world. And so in general, the Swiss have a high standard of living in terms of just the comfort of life, all the indicators of well-being in a society. But in Switzerland, they have declined to join the EU. And one of the main reasons for that is that out in the countryside, they're conservative. In the valleys, in the little villages, in the little towns, they don't want to change, no matter what. The people in the big cities want to be part of the EU. The business, the corporations, the politicians want to join the EU in general, but they have direct democracy here, which means that villages can vote, cantons can veto any membership in the EU. That's what's happened. They might eventually join, but as of now, And they're happy with that, with their own currency. Their economy is strong enough. It's a great place. We have a big series of movies about Switzerland, taking you to most of the great places. We'll bring you to Lucerne and up to Mount Titlis, Mount Rigi, over to Interlaken, up to the Jungfrau. We'll see the Schilthorn, Lauterbrunnen Valley, Trummelbach Falls, Grindelwald, Bern. Then on to Zermatt, the Matterhorn. Yes, we'll have a look at the Gornergrat, up the Sunega, do some hiking, show you the village. Then on down to Lugano and Locarno in the southern part of Switzerland, the Ticino. We also take you to the great city of Zurich. Look for them in our Swiss collection.